for many orgs. Like, I think we went from doing poorly to just straight failing, right? Like over the last year or so. And there's many reasons to that, but I'm really excited to have you and to explore this topic with you today. So just jumping right into it, Jeff, like why are organizations struggling with outbound today?
Yeah, I think about this a lot, and I think there are a few major factors at play. So, number one, I think there's some macroeconomic factors, uncertainty in the economy, meaning there are less buyers that are lining up to evaluate solutions. So, I think that's one of the reasons. Um, Number two, I think people are, and let me be clear when we talk about outbound. I look at it through the lens primarily of email and LinkedIn,
Mhm.
outbound versus cold calling. And I know cold calling, there are people that have a lot of success with that as well. But in terms of our inboxes, we're talking about our email inboxes, when we're talking about our LinkedIn inboxes, Slack inboxes potentially, um, it's overwhelming. I mean, people are getting so much stuff thrown at them. So I'd say that's the second kind of major factor. And the
Mhm.
third thing is that it's become really predictable. We know what's coming in a lot of cases. Like we've seen so many emails, we've seen so many LinkedIn messages, and they all start to kind of blend together and look the same. And when that happens, it's just easier for people to ignore what's happening.
So the economic climate for sure, they just don't buyers don't have the same budgets they once had, so they're not letting that in. Um, and just the sheer volume people are getting, right? So
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, I mean, you can see it if you're on LinkedIn, that the the common thread is I'm being asked by my sales leader to do more outbound. So it's not only SDRs that are being asked to do outbound, but
yeah.
AEs are being increasingly asked to do more and more of this stuff as well. And the goal is, hey, we got to build more pipeline because we're looking at like what the year's looking like if we don't have the pipeline there. And all of that is contributing to just more stuff going out there in the world, which lands in our inboxes.
Geez, so you're painting a gloomy picture, and it feels like, to cut through that's gotta be pretty difficult today, and so, typical org, let's say it has moderate to no inbound coming in, or maybe some of the better ones have that, but outbound represents the most important way, or the most seemingly controllable way, I should say, to grow your business. And you're struggling with it. How could you know? How can people fix this?
So there's a couple of things that I am pretty high on. One is I think that we as businesses, as sellers, as sales leaders, we have seen the value that automation brings in terms of allowing us to do more things more quickly. But one of the challenges is that when we automate our outbound and we solely rely on a merge tag to connect with the recipient, whoever we're sending it to, um, we we run the risk that we're kind of in that sameness category where it starts to look the same.
Mhm.
So I think that as opposed to doing more, I think doing doing more better, I think is the answer. So I think it comes down a little bit to quality versus quantity. Um, and I know automation isn't going away, but I also know that when you take the time to really personalize and truly try to connect with somebody on a human to human level, it stands out like way more than the other stuff that we get in our inbox. I mean, I will tell you with extreme confidence, and this is the reason I jumped into the line of business that I'm in, is this problem. With extreme confidence, 99% of the messages that I get, whether or not it's on email or like a LinkedIn connection request, it's all templated, it's all automated. I mean, there's we've kind of lost this humanity in sales. And I think that's the answer, is getting back to that more, especially for our more strategic, higher value opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, could you argue that, a sales engagement platform in general hurts you?
I think you could absolutely argue that. I think it not only hurts you, but it also hurts everybody else's inboxes who are getting blown up as well, which hurts the seller who wants to be, to do things a little bit more on a one-to-one type level as much as you can.
You
So I
know
think it absolutely can hurt you. Not and I'm not saying that sales automation tools are going away, and they shouldn't. I think there's a place for sending automated messages at some points during prospecting, during onboarding, during customer success. I mean, there's absolutely a place for it, but there's also a place um, for genuine humanity, genuine creativity to come into play, to craft messages, and to use approaches that engage people in a way that makes their inbox makes it pop, makes it stand out in their inbox.
Yeah, I mean, um, one of the major SEP platforms, their, best practices document actually will lead to you being in spam, I think, like sending 250 emails a day and all of this. That's something that people aren't seeing as well, right? Like they'd be so fortunate to land in a cluttered inbox. There's a good chance that they're not even gonna land there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I I I don't claim to be an expert on deliverability um, when it comes to email, um, but certainly there are some boxes you can check that are, you can pretty quickly figure out that these are things you don't do if you don't want to end up on a spam list. Obviously, one of those is sending, 250. I just heard somebody just yesterday say 100. I think I commented, something like 100 emails per day, like jokingly, and he said, "Jeff, it's more like 1,000 emails per day that some of these people are sending
How
out."
many inboxes do they have rotating though?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's another thing that you've got to do, is you've got to have different domains that you're sending
Yeah.
these things from, and you've got to check all the boxes in terms of DMARC and again, I'm not a deliverability expert, but all the technical things that you need to do to get there. But yeah, that's another challenge that's compounding it for sure.
Now, what are you seeing as best practices to cut through the noise, right? You mentioned, being personable or connecting on a human level. What have you seen work?
So going back to what your original question was, which is what are the reasons that outbound is hurting? So the macro factors, the fact that people's are getting so much stuff in their inbox,
Mhm.
and the fact that it's so predictable what they do get, that they scan through it and they just automatically, it just triggers, this is sales, and it's not connecting. So I'm a huge advocate, and I have been. I've been a seller my entire career. I'm a huge advocate for finding unique and creative approaches to stand out in an inbox. So, for example, um, when and there are a lot of tools out there right now that allow you to do personalized video, and
Sure.
maybe we've even gotten to the point where that's reaching. the predictability level. Like, oh, I've seen
I
personalized video.
I know at least one tool that allows you to, make one video and personalize it at scale for thousands of people. Like, you could just record like, "Hey, Jared Gong," and then it, like, puts it in,
Yeah.
like, as it goes through everything.
Yes, and I think the idea behind that tool is useful, and I think it's something as a sales leader or a sales person, I'd want to do that so I don't have to create, an individualized video. The same way that I think buyers are becoming aware of what an automated email looks like. Like, I know this is a template that was being
Mhm,
sent to me. In the same way, I think they can pretty quickly catch on that this personalized video um, was made for a bunch of people because it's not speaking directly to me. So I'll give you an example. I had somebody in LinkedIn send me a personalized video earlier this week, and it's a creative approach. I mean, I don't get a ton of them, um, so at least it's different than what I normally get. And it was one of those that had a sign that said "Hi Jeff," and I go and I listen to the video, and it, it was clear, like within 5 seconds, that it wasn't recorded for me. It was
mhm.
like, "Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video." It didn't mention me by name. It was clear that the thumbnail was customized to me, but
Were they
the
looking
rest
at
of the
the
video
camera at
wasn't.
least?
What's that?
Were they looking at the camera at least?
I think so. Yeah, I think,
Cool.
the production quality of the video was pretty well done, I think. Um, but then we got about 30 seconds into the video and it said, "Again, the reason I'm reaching out to you is because we work with enterprise companies like yours that are, selling to, X, Y, Z customers." And I mean, right there, it was like my validation that this thing wasn't really intended for me. Quickly, was realized because I'm not an enterprise company. I have a startup with two people. So I
Mhm.
mean, it's. I just think the more we can actually personalize the message, and had that message been specifically designed for me, and had his list building been better, towards, hey, we're looking at, you know startups that are super early stage, um, that would have obviously resonated more. But I think that's the problem with automation, is that we sometimes way miss the mark on who we're going after.
So, yeah, and you bring up a good point. If the list building was better there, I'm extremely bullish on the fact that, on this idea of perfect customer profile versus ideal, and the difference is, one's static and one is, not, like, based on, like, them hiring or fundraising or, hitting a milestone or something that, like, data that you could get, but you're not gonna get in a Zoom info, right? Like, or and not get, you might get in some of those data platforms, and when you build this perfect customer profile and think about, like, who's most likely to buy from you this month. That's how
Mhm.
I think about it, like, or meet with you this month because the need is there right now. Um, Not 6 months ago, right now.
Yep.
Not gonna be in 6 months, right now. Not from other companies no, no. Why? Like, and then messaging off of that, and you tell that story, wow, you've already separated yourself, and you can actually scale that with automation. That's relevancy at scale, right?
Agreed. Yeah, and I think it's still at this point, because I'm not aware of anything that is so um, infallible that you could just trust the if, ands, and ors that you plug
Sure.
into your data set, that there's not going to be some outliers in there. that are going to miss the mark. So I'm an advocate for putting a human eyeball on things and just making sure that the messaging that you're crafting is going to resonate, because nothing, and again, with all these other factors that I described, nothing I think in this world turns a buyer off quicker than being, you claiming that you know them and you clearly make a mistake that, was that it's like saying, "Hey, you're an enterprise type
Mhm.
customer" to me, which is like, come on, man.
There are some things that are really easy to automate and make sense, like, literally, to get someone to buy something isn't always the easiest, right? But to be a part of a partner network or, like, a no-cost offer, what we were running is, there's a site that offers discounts to other, people, right? So, like, we were just, like, saying, "Hey, you're offering it on this site, can you offer it on ours?" And the response rate, as you can imagine, is but because the relevancy is there, and we and
100%.
we and we called out the actual thing. That's why it worked. So saw that, thanks, Daniel. Saw that, saw that you're offering 50% off the first 3 months for everybody on this other site. Yo, can we just get the same exact thing on ours? And here's why. And, and already got that from, like, unicorns, like, already replied, like, "Let's set up time," all of that, not just small people that are looking for more things. So I thought that, I wanna put that out there, that it is a little contextual, but also I knew the exact offer, right? Like, we were scraping the exact offer, and
Yeah.
so it, like, it hit them, right? Like, um, what are you like, how are you all doing with Outbound with a two-person team?
Well,
What's working?
so I'm trying to figure it out. So I built this tool. We're 3 months into beta, so I mean it's so super early at this point. Um, and the tool is actually related to this conversation. It facilitates creative outreach, a way to stand out in an inbox. Um, the price point of the tool. So this is what I'm attempting to figure out, which is, you know, I've been a salesperson and now I've got the founder
Mhm,
hat on, and I'm, obviously got all sorts of new responsibilities to try and, make this thing work. But the price point of what we're selling is real low. So I mean, it's 25, $30 a month.
mhm,
So and right now we don't even have a Teams version, in this initial version. It's just an individual contributor can come in and go use it. So I'm trying to figure out the balance between testing out our own product, selling to individual users,
mhm.
um, and obviously how much time, to invest in personalizing, because I'm a big believer in that. And early returns are that if I do personalize a message and I take the time to really understand somebody, use the tool, people light up. They love it. Now, is it scalable where I'm currently at with this particular business? I'm not sure, just given the price point of what we're at. But so I I have a just a super strong belief that that whenever I mean, like what you were talking about with automation, if we build a super strong relevant list, I think automation can work. Otherwise, I think it can
It
completely
has to be
backfire.
strong.
Yeah, perfect, like you said.
That's why I'm bullet like, just talking another tech company that's, like, on my radar, uh, Keyplay and Peer Signal. Are you familiar with it?
I don't think so. No.
They scrape, like, job changes, all of this, and the idea is they found or they're creating a way to create this ICP based on, outside of things that you could get in a Zoom info, right? And, and they've identified some of the top triggers that actually relate to buying, like job hiring is one of them, right? Like, when you see you have a lot of job openings, or there's somebody that doesn't have a certain title, or somebody that does without a team, or the company growth is this big, that's that's more in line with ready to buy, than maybe even funding,
Yeah.
to be honest, because funding might be the leading indicator, but they might not be ready to buy for another 6 months or so as they, like, figure out their plans.
So this is a great example. So there are a lot of tools out there right now that, and it's a genius idea. Whoever thought of it? Like I look back to I used to sell to software and tech companies, and it was kind of we stumbled upon this realization. So we had big um, clients like Oracle and
Mhm,
Salesforce and Adobe, and they really liked what our product was, and they would migrate from one company to another company, and it was like this, perfect little inbound lead that would pop up. Hey, I left XYZ and moved over to this new startup right now, and we loved what you guys did, and I would love to do that. And it was like I wish I would have had the idea at the time. Like, man, it would be great to be able to track these changes because it was like the hottest inbound lead that you could get
mhm.
when somebody had used your product and then moved to somewhere else. So that being said, there are a ton of tools out there right
Yeah.
now that are doing this. Maybe not a ton, but there are
I mean, even
several.
LinkedIn Sales Navigator has this rudimentary done, right?
Yeah,
Like,
hundred
people that have
percent.
changed jobs in your ICP or whatever list you have in the last 30 days.
Yep, exactly. So let's just play this out. So
Yeah.
let's pretend there are 10 tools out there right now that do it. And there are a bunch of companies that are using these tools because they realize the value, and there's definite value there in being able to track when somebody moves from company A to company B. So imagine that there are 10 tools out there, and let's say they all have 100 clients. So now we've got 1,000 companies out there that all know when person moves from company A to company B. And even if it's considered the perfect profile because they met this criteria of moving, now all of a sudden their inbox is completely blown up because, hey, saw you moved from this company to the next company. And automation right there likely is not going to get it done, in my opinion. I think in order to stand out in that inbox where everybody is congratulating them on their new job, I think you've got to take it to the next level. Assuming it's, there's value, there's enough value in what you're selling and enough strategic value in them as a customer as well.
I couldn't agree more. I think, once these tactics and tools hit the mainstream, they become less effective, um, quickly, and we've been seeing that time and time again. Sales engagement platforms were bomb. They were friggin', in the 10 years ago, 8 years ago, you got that right, uh, subject and that right, body and that right sequence, plug and play.
It was a massive differentiator. I mean, it allowed you to go super fast and scale, to unheard of levels, um, much more cost effectively than you could before, and it worked. But the climate has shifted. People are
Yeah.
they're aware of the automated email. They know what it looks like. Um, that's why you obviously, like, I'm beating a dead horse here, but yeah, either have the perfect list or actually put a human on it to personalize the message.
So, got a question from, the crowd, like, what do companies do with these inside sales teams um, if they can mass email? And I guess this mass emailing doesn't work. Like, man, how can you enable this culture across a full sales team? Right? Because, like, being creative as an individual, there's some interesting things. How do you enable a full team to follow this? Like, okay, guys, we're not you need to do this. This is what I'm curious about as well.
So the question is, how do we help our everyone on our team become
Yeah.
more creative in their approach? Well, I think
Some people are naturally more creative, than others.
it's rolling back the clock a little bit, quite frankly. It's getting back to a time when um, human to human connections were um, mattered more than they do now. Um,
Phew, I like
let
that.
me. I'm not sure I said that right. I'm just saying that that's the we were that's what you had to do. You had to be human in your outreach, and there wasn't an option to automate it. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yep.
When you look at, like, if you're on LinkedIn, you're in the sales community, I would I would bet what I'm about to say that you would 100% agree with. You have heard of the company Lavender,
Mhm,
like the email writing assistant.
mhm.
And the reason why I think that they've gained so much traction is because they're kind of the anti-automation platform, and they don't position
I
themselves that
mean,
way.
you're talking to somebody that runs a community of 35,000. I think the reason they've gotten traction is because they are community-led growth to a T.
Oh,
They
100%.
they lean into so many communities and all of this, um, to be honest and fair. I
No,
think I think they I think they're masterful on LinkedIn, and I think that, yeah, they do have a tool that is the anti-automation as well, so I think they have the right tool to accompany all this.
yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, they're the gold standard when it comes to, like, how to do community led growth. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm envious of it and envious of what you built as well. Um, but if the product didn't fit the market, like if people weren't using
Yeah.
it, no matter how good they were at that, those messages wouldn't resonate. And the fact is the product does fit the market, meaning people do find tremendous value in using their tool for creating personalized emails, which brings it back down to kind of that one-on-one level versus the one-to-many level.
So spot on. Now, what does Popper do, like, in this whole ecosystem? I mean, you started slowly alluding to it, but I'm curious and how that plugs in with, your MO here.
Yeah. So um, I'll try and tell the story real briefly. I spent my career in corporate America, decided I
What
wanted to go
types of
out.
roles, out of curiosity?
So I was sold software. I
Mhm.
was a founding AE at a sales training company that our clients were software and tech companies. This is
Perfect.
the companies I mentioned, like Oracle and Salesforce
Sure.
and Adobe. So I sold that service to worldwide sales leaders at those types of companies. Traveled the world, actually training sales teams, and our kind of core product was specifically teaching people how to demo software more
Okay.
effectively. Um, anyway, I reached this point in my career. I'm a dozen years in, and decided I've got this entrepreneurial itch that if I don't do it, I'm never going to do it. So jumped out, made the leap to start my own SaaS business, which was going to be around how to um, democratize video content and make it more
Mhm.
affordable for everybody. Long story short is I chickened out and ended up with this video production business, which actually was successful. We planned to grow it to 50 cities in North America, and that was like the commitment to do that. And we figured out how to do it. Was made like 2 months before the pandemic hit. So the pandemic hits, and it's like, oh man, this is not going to work. We can't be in front of people with videographers, and this business model is not going to work in this new world that we're living in. And so I went back to this nagging problem that I've been seeing, which was there's way too much junk being thrown in my inbox, and I see this problem only getting worse. And I wanted to
Mhm.
figure out ways. I'm even though I've been sales, I'm naturally always kind of think I'm a creative person as well. I like telling stories. I like painting pictures. Um, more more figuratively than literally. But so I set out to try and find a solution to what are some ways that we can help people stand out. Naturally went to video as being one of the ways to do that. Um, and actually came up with this really cool idea to use actors in a studio filming video content specifically targeted to an individual audience, and kind of like that AI tool you were talking about. They'd film the front end and the back end of it, and then we'd
Wow.
have a middle portion. It was really cool.
Sounds robust
Yeah,
to get it started.
yeah. Well, it was expensive to do it. It was production value was off the charts. It was awesome,
Yeah.
but it didn't work. So the next kind of step in this was personalized, highly personalized landing pages
Mhm.
um, that are and were super cool. But I abandoned the idea when I realized that IT directors are yelling one thing over and over again at everybody in their organization: do not click a link, no matter what you do, if you don't know who it's from. And so this idea of sending a link to a landing page seemed like it was dead on arrival. And so last spring, I started experimenting with a completely new idea of using personalized slide based GIFs. So
Mhm.
basically, a GIF image that plays automatically when you send it in somebody's inbox, but then tells a story. And it's different than somebody waving or holding a sign. It actually tells a little story, and
Does this hurt deliverability out of curiosity, putting a GIF in there?
I think if you send something in your
Email.
first outreach, I think it's a huge mistake. So I think it's when you have established that you're sending something
Okay.
to them. And I've actually started doing it. If I notice that they open something, then I'll send them that as a follow up. And obviously, there's no gates in LinkedIn if you're connected with somebody to
Sure.
send them something. So, long story short, this idea was validated, by people that I was just sending it to. People loved it, like, OMG, 20 exclamation marks. How'd you do that? And so, developed the app and released it in beta in December. And now I've got this idea, and my vision is
How many
is
GIFs have you sent since December? I'm curious.
personally, oh, I don't hundreds,
Yeah.
thousands. I mean, a lot, and it's for a lot of different use cases as well. So it's not just like, hey, pay attention to me. I've got something that can help you be better at outbound. For example, um, I'm using them for when people I've got a meeting coming up,
Mhm.
like as a cool way to send a meeting reminder. Like that's like, oh, okay, thanks for that. And here's the 3 points of, what you can expect to get out of it. When I connect with somebody new on LinkedIn, I'll send that as kind of my introductory, like, you know, uh, here's my pledge to you. I'm not going to try and pitch you stuff on LinkedIn, those kinds of things. So there's lots of different ways to use it. And I see I have this vision now, um, of a creative outreach platform that has multiple forms of these kind of creative ways to stand out and catch somebody's eye differently than um, what's happening now. So that's kind of the grand vision of where I want to take it.
If it and I love that. Is it a creative platform if you have 10,000 people on it? I mean, is it still creativity that's an outputted if you have 10,000 people on it trying every single thing? And now you have buyers getting it 2 to 3 times, because I think it goes back to the original sales engagement platform, right? To an extent?
100%. 100%. Yeah, I've thought about that. Number one, I think that'd be a good problem to have.
It would
If
be.
and when we get to that point where we start, people start seeing some repeats, like, oh, I've seen something like this before. So my goal is, um, and this is just founder, big pie in the sky vision, but have many different types of things that look very different,
Mhm.
from a a, a GIF that rotates through slides and different mediums and approaches as well. Because I do think that, yeah, you're right. Buyers are, they become tired of things, and we just have so much stuff thrown at us all day, every day, um, that when you finally see something that you haven't seen before or that's uniquely messaged to you, it resonates.
Have you considered, and this is me putting my creative hat on, I'm 99% sure you could put GIFs on LinkedIn posts, right? Like you could post with the GIF. I think you either put it as an image or you put it as a video. I forget, but like it might be an image. What about using that on posts and then calling out saying like, "Hey, VP of Sales Gong," and then and then again, this is my creative hat, circulating it in the communities that you're in to get people like clicking it. And I'm talking for you to sell it in particular, or others to use it, right? And getting all that on it and getting that cred around it. And this example, creative outbound, this isn't. This might be a new way to do it, but shout out to Ryan Scalera who is making videos on LinkedIn. If you know that gentleman,
I
he's
do.
wonderful,
It's
and he
awesome.
was literally calling out who he wanted to meet with, and he was literally getting responses and meetings from it. It took him a long time. This sounds like it's much quicker.
Yeah,
And then you could have a full campaign
I
going. You could
think
have
why
one on
Ryan
LinkedIn and you could have a follow-up
I
in
think why
email.
Ryan's approach worked, the way that the way that the platform's currently set up, it's designed to be specifically targeted to a unique individual. So let's say there is the VP Gong, like you said. Um, why Ryan's approach, I think, worked above and beyond what you're suggesting is
Mhm.
that Ryan clearly put the effort, into putting that together and the creative. I mean, it was like I've seen a couple of those, and there's no, you just can't ignore it. And
Yeah.
obviously, that's kind of what I my vision of what I want to get to, though, is creating stuff like that that feels really, really genuine and really personalized. And there are some personalized elements as well. I'm not sure that our tool right now is set up in the same way to send it to a specific individual. I'm not sure how it would come across, but I love the thought behind it.
Fair. My all-time favorite LinkedIn message for those listening, and this is GIF related, so I want to make it very on brand here. When my prospect is looking at my post, and I've tried this at different parts of my life, different parts of my career, and it's worked very well. Gave it to somebody else the idea, and he booked like 3 meetings in a day with it. And this and so the idea is you take on LinkedIn natively. There's a if you type in peking deer, Peeking, it has a deer moving its head out and head back. And I wrote, saw you checking out my profile. Hope I didn't do anything wrong? Question mark. Oh no, no, you didn't. I actually wanted to see, like, I got your email and I wanted to see something. It's so disarming.
Yeah,
And it starts a conversation in more of a synchronous space than email. And I want to point that out. What's interesting about LinkedIn versus email, one, you don't have the spam filters, and that's great. Although they might put them in one day soon,
hmm,
and that would be great as well, for the people that get a lot of it. But you also have a chance for synchronous communications.
100%.
People are on their app. Email has a little lag. Like even if it goes back and forth, people want to get out of their emails more than they want to get off of LinkedIn or Slack or a community in Slack. Don't sell in a community on Slack. But
Yeah,
yes.
agreed. 100%. Yeah, I love that. approach, and it's just right in that same bucket of just a creative way to stand out. Now, if everybody starts doing peaking deer messages, and all of a sudden you start seeing that, it gets a little, it could it could get stale. But it's unique, and it's a good way to um, get people to pay attention and respond. I love it.
Jeannie has a cool question. So she's hearing you say that email creativity will need to move at the pace of like an Instagram, Snapchat to stay interactive. Do you believe email has a creative cap due to the creative limitations that exist with email versus social?
Do I believe? And I'm not seeing this message. Where?
Oh, it's in. I'll post it here. This is
Okay.
on LinkedIn Live right
Oh, okay.
now,
Gotcha.
and I'm
Um,
putting it right in the comments,
so
in the chat to the right.
does email have a creative cap? Um,
Watch this.
I don't. I'm
I can
not
even bring
sure.
it here.
I'm not,
I can even put it right here in front of
oh, I
me.
love that. Perfect. I got it. I'm not sure that it does. I mean, think about. Let's just say we're talking only words. Like there's a there's a gazillion ways that we can craft and manage our words. So no, I don't think it's a platform. Email's a platform, and you definitely have the ability to be creative in how you approach it. So I don't think there's a cap on that personally.
Yeah, and me too. Like I think how I'd answer this is creativity in general doesn't have a cap.
100%. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just keep thinking outside the box. And if that means you have to do something away from email, you know, it's ironic, like cold calling, making a massive comeback because people aren't cold calling, and that's becoming, or they weren't, and that's becoming relatively creative, and it's pretty predictable. Even if you only have 5 to 10% connect rates, uh,
Oh, I think that's high.
I know, I think 5 is what I'm hearing be the average. 10 is like, geez, that's crazy. That's great.
Curious,
But,
do you
yeah,
get cold called?
a little bit. So 2 kinds of cold calls. The one that a lot of folks get, like, there's 3 types of cold calls. One, automated, like your car loan, is running out when you don't have a car. Those are always fun. 2, um, where you pick up the phone and then you hear a click and then you hear somebody from a faraway land come in, um, just like with a uniformed pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the most common one
I
too.
get that too. Yeah.
And then 3, which is surprisingly less common for me because I'm not in the ICP yet for a lot of folks, although I'm increasingly becoming in more ICPs. Um, a sales rep calling,
Mm.
um, that that is like a level of seasoned from okay to quite good that like is assigned your account and you could tell. And those I welcome. I get
And
like so few of them.
do you pick up every call you get?
I don't pick up spam. I pick up I don't pick up area codes that I don't know. I think I sometimes pick up locally, especially if I'm affected. I pick up sometimes.
Yeah. I know there are a lot of people that are having a lot of success with cold calling, and there's lots of chatter about the success on LinkedIn. What I don't, what I can't wrap my head around, and this just is my phone. Like I get so many calls per day that are in that number two category.
Mhm.
Like I pick up, I'm like, hello, and it's nothing, and then it's the Jeffrey, like
Yeah.
it's like this is spam. It's like, I don't know what you're trying. And I've hung on for a couple of them, and they're like,
I don't
"Is this
even know why we
Jeffrey?"
wait till the click ends. Like, as soon as you hear the click, we should just shut it off
Yeah. Or it's Jeffrey, and I'm like, "Yeah," and then they just hang up. Like, "Oh, I got him. It's him." It's like, oh
to
man,
update their systems, right? Like,
I think so.
how crazy is that? That most of the cold calls we get are from the tools trying to get like phone ready leads, but nobody's actually using them to cold call.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I've gotten to the point I can't pick it up anymore, just because I think it's, unless I recognize the number specifically. So
Cold
that's
calling
that's
gives
me.
an anxiety sweats. I like that. So, but what I was saying about creativity, like, you you could send them something in the mail, and I'm not even just talking like gifting platforms, like that phase, that craze, like came. It's still around. Some companies are more successful in space than others. Uh, but Dale Dupree used to. Do you know Dale? Like he used
Yeah,
to. And I actually have the whole file for this. When he was a copier warrior, he used to mail. Do you know the story? He used to mail people
the
the
crumpled letter.
sponge.
Oh, I haven't heard the sponge. I've heard
So
the crumpled letter.
so the crumpled letter is a great one, and most of what he does is great. All of it's great. But he'd mail people a sponge that looked like a brick, and he'd have a note in it, and it would say, "Okay, next time your copy machine, these are instructions for when your copy machine breaks. One, pick up the brick, put it in your throwing hand. Two, look at the broken copy machine. Three, throw the brick at the copy machine. And four, call me, Dale Dupree, copier warrior."
Oh,
So
that's great.
that was kind of cool, right? And
That's
and
very
and
cool.
and mind you, there I don't know the level of personalization or relevancy for that specific moment, but it hit because it was relevancy on the fact that all copy machines break eventually.
100%. And they have a copy machine. He actually had
Mhm.
a problem that they could solve at some point. So I love that, and that's that's exactly, the what I get all geeked out about is stories like that, where people come up with unique and creative ways to just stand out and be different. Don't be the same as everybody else.
And that's a major takeaway for everybody listening. Like, think outside the box and don't do things that lack tact to think outside the box. Like, still be tactful, but be creative, be funny, be fun. What is the most creative campaign with success that you've seen, like that worked? Or that
I
you've done?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back a little ways, before personalization was a thing, like personalizing images or videos or anything like that. I had a so I was an account executive that also had to generate my own pipeline. I didn't have SDRs.
Oh, for
Um,
anybody who's an account executive before 2014,
yeah,
this is like deja vu all over again
100%.
right now.
Yeah,
I think that was roughly the year that SDRs came about
yeah,
in mass. Yeah.
yeah. So I had a campaign that I was running where I would send um, personalized. I would take screenshots of their website, and I would. This was using PowerPoint. It was pretty rudimentary, but I would go in and take a screenshot of their website, and I would change the copy on it to be something that was related to the problem that we were helping solve for, and I would send that to them in an email. And it was oftentimes, I mean, it was shock and awe, because they were like, "Wait, how did you get into, get a how are you able to make that change to our website?" And I know there are lots of tools that allow you to do stuff like that now, and it's editing photos and those kinds of things is a lot easier. But man, it was a great conversation starter, for just getting people to realize the problem, but also in a creative way that made it stand out.
I love that. And to anybody listening now, no matter how creative you get, if you're selling an e-commerce product, and I get a lot of people selling me I spent 7 years in e-commerce. I don't know, was it 7? Felt like 7. A few years in e-commerce. It was 7 years at FedEx, maybe a handful in e-commerce. People are selling me things in e-commerce. I don't care how creative your outreach is. If you try to sell me something that's relevant for an e-commerce person, I'm going to politely ask you to stop because or not respond. And I'm not the only one because it's taking both of our times. You to create it super creatively, um, and me to look at it. Relevancy
Oh, it's
again is understated. No matter how, I'm pretty sure I've gotten like virtual high fives, but I can't buy from you because it doesn't fit like along my career. Like that was awesome, but yeah, not a fit.
yeah, 100%. I mean, that's if there's one buzzword for salespeople today for outbound, it should. I mean, I'm a huge fan of creativity, being a big part of that. But I think even more important is being relevant. Yeah, I mean, I don't, sending you a big beach ball with your logo on it and saying, "Hey, look at me." Um, if it has zero to do with anything, just to get attention, is not gonna doesn't make any sense. So yeah, your message has to be relevant. It's got to be problem focused. This is something
Mhm.
that I worked for a sales training company, or we taught people how to talk about the customer's problems, about benefits and value versus our own products and features and all that stuff. But even still today, the stuff that I get in my email or my in-mail, I mean, it's like, we are this company, we do this, this, and this is our customer. These are a couple customer examples. It's like they're using a template from the 1800s. It's just like, it's not relevant.
So I'm not even sure if it's a yeah, it might be from the 1800s to be honest. And please people, write under 75 words. All right, eke up to 100, but like when you go above that, it's not even close. Like you hit it or not. There's no reason ever to put more than one line about what your company does, if you even have that line. Like you don't need a full paragraph on it or two.
Yeah, the lavender guys, the lavender team, I mean,
They're good.
well, they're suggesting 50 words or less, is what the gold standard is. So there's a lot of stuff typically that we feel
Yeah.
like we need to say in our emails. And you go back and look at some of the emails I sent, 10, 15 years ago. It's like, oh boy, I'm sending like these long form essays to people that were thoughtfully written, they were personalized, but just too much. Yeah, people's attention spans are just, they're nothing these
So
days.
you're spot on. I remember Andrew Mason, the former CEO of Groupon, famously, like there's even articles on this, said like their team won't send emails above 75 words. There's like it just doesn't work. And Groupon, at least early, grew so fast. Like so fast. If you remember.
Oh yeah. Rocket
Now
ship.
now it's a different story, but like they grew like uber fast in the beginning. And that was one of their outbound things. Like he was just like, don't write an email over 75 words. And so like Lavender saying 50, I'm mentioning 75. If you're at 3 digits, it's probably too much, right?
100%. Oh,
If you're at
yeah.
100, it's too much. Like, okay, like we could argue maybe one extra line, fine, test it, but like you don't
And
need a
we're talking
paragraph on
about like cold emails,
it. Mhm.
that would be anything before somebody's responded. Obviously, an email, once you have somebody that's, in the pipeline, so to speak, or in the funnel, and you're engaging with, obviously, if they need more information,
They have questions, you answer their
yeah,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But yeah,
So
less is more. I mean, it's just a tale as old as time.
how do you think that GPT-4, GPT-3 going to 4, and just AI in general is going to affect outbound? And what excites you about the future?
Well, I think. what I really think is exciting about a technology like that is that um, it helps people with thinking about how to message sometimes, even create more personalized messaging. Um, and I think that's something that I've seen some sellers that they struggle with it. It's
Mhm,
just not innate for everybody. Um, so I think for those folks, I think it can be really helpful. I also think that it can be used as a tool to kind of check your messaging as well. Like, will this resonate with this type of a persona, and get some feedback on it? So it's an extra pair of eyeballs at a minimum. What I
mhm.
fear is that it becomes way too overused and people grow away from thinking creatively and really thinking about the problem and how to message that in a way that's going to resonate with people. And we've seen that kind of happen with automation, that people are just we become reliant on that being what gets sent out. That I hope that doesn't happen, that we still stay human in our communications.
I'm bullish on AI, becoming more human.
And there's no doubt.
I don't think it'll have true empathy, but everything short of that, I think it'll have. I think it will, and geez, we've all watched, or some of us at least. I've watched multiple times Ex Machina.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Might not be real this year, but it's real. I'm
No,
telling you.
I'm with you, and I'm not. Believe me, I'm a realist and recognize that there is a huge shift that's coming because of those capabilities. But at the same time, for salespeople to stay valuable, you've got to stay human.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming. How can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, yeah, is probably the best way. So connect with me on LinkedIn, send a message. I respond and connect with virtually everyone, especially if there's some sort of personalized reference point. Hey, I sat in on your webinar, love to connect, those kinds of things. Because I get so many that are just completely non personalized. Like, LinkedIn recommended that you're a good person to connect with. We should connect, or something, that's just complete gobbledygook. So, yeah, connect with me there. Um, that's the best spot.
Awesome. And if you send him the GIF peaking deer, I spelled peaking with two E's and it pops up. You'll see it. There's like three of them. They're all the same. I'm sure that'll be personalized even more. But thank you for coming, Jeff. We appreciate you. And this has been another episode of Outbound 2.0. If you enjoyed it, you liked it, tell some other folks. We'll be here next week, same time. Thank you so much, everybody.
Appreciate it, Jared. Thanks, everybody.